Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, November 14th, 2024. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, it's a two-stage Mash Your Luck challenge. Adam Ross from Twinspan Brewing in Bettendorf, Iowa, homebrewer Scott Housel, and author Chris Colby and I taste the giant dark beer that I brewed with south-of-the-border influences. It's really two beers in one challenge, as I also brewed a basic Pilsner to use as a yeast starter for the big tasty beer. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. And many thanks to the new Patreon subscribers who are signing up every week. Your help is very much appreciated. It's now November. Patreon says Apple is going to start taking a big chunk of new Patreon subscriptions that are initiated in the iPhone Patreon app. It doesn't affect current subscribers who have already subscribed. So if you're thinking of subscribing to podcasts like ours and you have an iPhone Patreon app, if you want to sign up for subscribing to podcasts financially, go instead to the Patreon website to subscribe. Then you can use the iPhone app to look at all the wonderful stuff that you'll have access to. And that's for everybody that you want to support through Patreon. Steve Wilkes and I are getting together this week to shoot 3 more video episodes to take us to the end of the year. We'll sample the second version of my Honey IPA, the Starter Pilsner that we'll talk about on the show, and the big dark Mash Your Luck beer that we'll also talk about in this show. I'm really looking forward to sharing that beer with Steve. I predict much eye rolling. Steve texted me the other day that he's working on a very ambitious mead that I'm also looking forward to tasting in the new year. Speaking of the end of the year, it's time to start gathering disaster stories for the annual disaster show. I've gotten hints of disasters that folks have emailed me, but haven't taken time to write them up yet. And now's the time. Look at the calendar. It's the end of the year zooming up quick. And Steve and I don't know when we're going to get together to record. I'll update you on that. But in the meantime, if you've had some brew days or beer experiences in general that have gone wrong, write them up and email them to james@basicbrewing.com. A lot of those times, disastrous brew days have resulted in delicious beers. Other times, they've unfortunately resulted in property damage and injury. Oof. Please don't send photos of the injuries, by the way. Lesson learned. Ugh. No one wants to see floppy skin from scalded hands and stuff. Only a handful of weeks left in the year. So get those written up and sent in soon, please. Planning on taking the week of Thanksgiving off as usual. But next week, Chris Colby and I are going to get together to formulate a recipe for some sort of Belgian-inspired golden ale. I've been hankering for a fairly big golden Belgian-y beer. And, timing is everything. Our friends and sponsors at Imperial Yeast are bringing back B45 Gnome as the winter seasonal. B45 Gnome was specifically selected for brewing Belgian-style ales with remarkable clarity and classic Belgian flavor profiles. Gnome offers a balanced flavor profile, malt and hop harmony, high flocculation, and versatility, suitable for various Belgian beer styles from light and hoppy, which is what I'll be shooting for with the next beer, to dark and malty. B45 Gnome is out there now until early January while supplies last. You know we love Imperial Yeast. With 200 billion cells in each easy-to-open pouch, my stirp plate is dusty because I don't use it anymore to make starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon batches. And my airlocks are usually bubbling before bedtime. Ask your local homebrew store about Imperial B45 Gnome and find out all about all the dependable deliciousness at imperialyeast.com. It's imperialyeast.com. Okay, this Mash Your Luck challenge was indeed a challenge. high alcohol lagers can be intimidating, but thanks to help from Chris Colby, author of the Homebrew Recipe Bible, Methods of Modern Homebrewing, and How to Brew Hard Seltzer, we came up with a strategy to successfully execute an ambitious plan. Adam Ross from Twinspan Brewing up in Bettendorf, Iowa. Welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And Scott Housel, somewhere in Florida, standing in front of a field of sugar cane, if your background is to be believed. Welcome back.
Thanks. Always great to be here.
And Chris Colby, down there in Texas, my collaborator on these beers that we are going to taste today. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me on the show, James.
You sound sad. You sound
resigned to his fate.
Melancholy, yes. Oh, I must drink some beer today. Whatever will I do?
So this is my response to, or I guess Chris and my response to my spinning of the Mash Your Luck challenge last time I spun, and my characteristics that we came up with were very high ABV, and I think Adam challenged me to get at least 12%, low bitterness, black, lager from the world, as opposed to from the U.S. or Germany or the U.K. or Belgium. Or
the moon, if you're going to say the world.
That's right. It's the world. So in order to brew this giant beer, we took a couple of extraordinary steps to get there. So we wanted to let's talk about the first step, Chris. Do you remember what the first extraordinary step that we took in making this giant beer?
Making a giant yeast starter.
That's right.
When you brew high gravity lagers, lagers themselves take more yeast to get an ordered fermentation out of, and then the higher gravity, the more you need. So when you're homebrewing a full size batch of a strong lager, you can't just I guess some of the newer yeast packs are pretty big, but you're better off making a yeast starter that's going to give you enough yeast to get an ordered fermentation, like a fast start, that one that goes to completion without stopping, and one that finishes at a appropriately low gravity.
Yeah, so in this case, my stir plate was still dusty because I didn't use it. I made a starter Pilsner, a moderate gravity Pilsner with a packet of Imperial L17 Harvest, and I didn't make a starter for that Pilsner. The Pilsner was just a 5-gallon or a 19-liter batch, 10 pounds or 4.5 kilograms of Pilsner malt. I mashed at 155 degrees Fahrenheit or 68 C for 60 minutes. I boiled for 60 minutes with just 2 ounces or 56 grams of Czech Sats at 2.5% alpha acid at the beginning of that 60-minute boil. I chilled down to 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 C, which was the upper end of the recommended fermentation range for harvest. And I lagered. I did a diacetyl rest. The original gravity was 1044. The final gravity was 1010 for an ABV of 4.4%. And by the way, 149 calories, according to my little calculator. So cheers, guys. You should have the little starter Pilsner in front of you. There were keg pours, so I hope the carbonation was okay.
Prost. You have to make eye contact when you cheers in German. No, the carbonation's great. I think it's spot on, and the fact that I poured this a few minutes ago, the head is still really hanging around. That's great.
Nice.
Yeah, mine's carbonated. Good foam stand. Reasonable clarity. I only put this in the fridge yesterday, though, so if I'd put it in there for maybe 2 or 3 days, it might have cleared up a little bit better.
I've had mine in there for a few days, and I want a little more clarity. I mean, it's right on the edge of where like I wouldn't expect a homebrewed beer to go much more clear, but I would if I was at a commercial brewery and I was told this is a Pils, I'd be like, hey guys, why don't you just wait a little bit longer or run it through a filter or something.
Yeah, mine's homebrew clear too. I'd say. But nice. It's pretty. It's light.
Yeah, I didn't do any findings other than what's the tablet? The little tablet.
The
Whirl Flock?
Whirl Flock. Yes, thank you. I've had 2 sips of beer. So it looks okay. I should have done maybe gelatin if I were paying more attention, but I was a little harried on the day that I kegged because I was also brewing the second beer on the day that I kegged this beer. So it looks a little cloudy, but it's got a nice foam. So what about the aroma and the flavor?
Aroma's good. I get the Pilsner malty. I don't get a ton of hops, but then it's not a super hoppy beer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting I don't know, what type of Pilsner malt did you use specifically?
It was probably avant-garde Pilsner.
Okay. It's not, to me, it's not saying, it's not the German malt I'm used to. It's not Weirmann, I guess, which is not a ding. That's not, that's just my, like, oh, this is something slightly different Pilsner than what I'm used to. And I haven't used avant-garde, so.
Yeah, the hop, in my opinion, it could use a teeny bit more bitterness, teeny bit more hops. But this was, again, a sacrificial starter beer.
Did you do anything with water, or is this just your tap?
This is just my water.
I think I want a little less minerality in a Pils. I'd prefer there's something going on in the water that even if BJCP contest, I don't know if I'd ding it, but it would be if there was another beer that was tied with it, I would think it would come down to water for me.
But I don't taste any butteriness or
No.
butterscotchiness. I don't taste any fermentation flaws whatsoever.
No, there's no diacetyl or acetaldehyde or any of the biggies. Phenolic Band-Aid.
I agree. And I like it. It's a mix of it's the grassiness from the Saz hops in a good way, and then there's kind of this this malt is almost coming off as like a little bit of like a dried grass, a little hay, in a good way, a pleasant way.
I sampled a lager, a golden lager. I'm not sure if it was a Pilsner or not. Yesterday at a local brewery, and I think I like this one better. It seems to have more grain character than the one I had yesterday. Of course, I think the one that I had yesterday was trying to be the entry level beer at the little brewery. But I think I'm pretty happy with it. It's nothing spectacular, but it's
I'd pay $1 for it and be happy.
Yeah.
It's refreshing.
Yeah. It'd be a good palate cleanser. Be a good sitting out on the porch. Of course, it's like, it's like 68 degrees here today, so it'd be good to sit out on the porch.
It's perfect drinking weather.
So when I racked out of the carboy, as the beer was either mashing or boiling, I think it was mashing, the second beer. There was like almost a gallon of slurry left in the carboy.
Wow.
Which is, some of that's going to be beer, obviously, but there was a lot of yeast in the bottom, which is what we were shooting for. Because after I brewed the second beer, I racked it on top of that whole yeast slurry and aerated with oxygen. I think I aerated this one with oxygen as well. And then, also pitched it at 60 degrees Fahrenheit and fermented it at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So, are you ready to hear about the big beer? Shall we talk?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're gonna use the the scoring system that Adam came up with the other day on the show when we had our first competition with the Inland Empire folks.
You'd think I'd have that reference handy, but I don't. So are we going to just go around the table and say what everyone thinks for each level, and then I don't have to worry about writing down and doing math?
Sure. Yeah, we'll do that eventually. But again, we're talking about where's my? I got too many pieces of paper. Very high ABV, low bitterness, black lager from the world. So I was thinking of the places that we have listed on the list, and where there wasn't a representation, and south of the border was not represented. So I thought, we're going to have to use sugar for this. And the other day when I went to a local Mexican grocery store here in Prairie Grove called Del Rio, it's a little bitty store, family run, but they had these little cones of piloncillo sugar. And I've always been curious about those. So I got a pound of that. I got 2 cones of that, which is a pound of sugar. And I thought, what else, comes from south of here? And I said, I think Chris, you and I brainstormed on this as well. Coffee also comes from south of the border and goes well with the dark beer. And also cacao nibs come from south of the border and also blend in with that well. But then I wanted a little bit. I was inspired by some of the recipes for mole sauce that I've read, and they have a little heat. So I've been growing habaneros here at the house. Well, Susan's been growing them. I've been picking them and cooking with them and such. So I had some hickory smoked habanero powder that I made a tincture of that I added in there as well. But that's getting the horse before the cart before the horse. I haven't used a horse and cart recently. I get mixed up. Okay, anyway. So here are the ingredients that Chris and I came up with. I believe this is the Dark World beer, or the Cerveza Oscura del Mundo, the dark beer of the world. And forgive me if I got that wrong. This is what turned out to be a 3.5 gallons going into the bottling bucket in the end. But this was a reiterated mash. And Chris, tell us what a reiterated mash is.
You mash some crushed malts at first. You run off the wort until you get about whatever you can get out of the grains, and a wort of about 1040, specific gravity 1.040, and then you use that as your brewing liquor for your main batch. So you mash in with wort instead of water.
And that's exactly what I did. Since I have brew in a bag, my system, the more, I can brew, put a lot of grain in there, but it tends to get less efficient as I add more grain, even, recirculating through the recirculating pump. So what I did was I did a first I started with 9 gallons, which is a gallon more, 34 liters, a gallon more than what I usually start with. And so I did my first mash with just 10 pounds of 2-row, or 4.5 kilograms of 2-row. And I mashed that, and at the end of I think I mashed for an hour, and I believe that my gravity that I got after that first mash was 1030. So I used that water to do my second mash, which was 10 pounds or 4.5 kilograms of 2-row, 12 ounces or 340 grams of chocolate malt, and then 3 ounces or 85 grams of black malt. So did that second mash, and I believe the original gravity of that was, or the pre-boil gravity of that was 1061. Then I took a mallet and beat up the cones of piloncillo brown sugar in a Ziploc bag. And once I beat those up, it melted pretty quickly in the boil. So to a To the boil, the beginning of the boil, I added 1 pound or 450 grams of piloncillo brown sugar. And I wound up, I boiled for an hour and a half to get my target original gravity. At the beginning of that boil, I added 2 ounces or 56 grams of German Northern Brewer at 6.9% alpha acid. So it was kind of hard to read the refractometer. So I kind of had to like estimate where to stop. My target original gravity was 1.120. It wound up being 1.112. So I chilled down the wort to 60 degrees Fahrenheit and put it on top of the yeast cake from the Pilsner, oxygenated it, and then fermented it at 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 C, and did a diacetyl rest. My final gravity turned out to be 1012. So that's like 88% apparent attenuation, I believe.
Yes.
So, according to my figures, it's around 13.3% alcohol by volume. So
Wow.
So
Good
so that L17 harvest from Imperial did pretty good. So at bottling time, and I racked into a secondary because at the end of fermentation it was looking pretty cloudy. So I racked into secondary and it cleared up. Clear, you can't see through it, but the gunk settled out pretty quickly. Racked it into a bottling bucket, and then Susan helped me to taste the beer and to add some additional ingredients. So what I added was about a cup of brewed coffee, Honduran brewed coffee that I roasted myself. I made a tincture with cacao nibs and vodka, and I added about a cup from that tincture, and then made a tincture with the habanero powder, and I added about 2 teaspoons from that. So all that went into the bottling bucket. After we tasted it and we thought it was okay, I added some rehydrated Lallemand cask and bottle conditioning yeast because I figured that, between the settling out of the yeast and the high alcohol that the original yeast, the harvest, would probably need a little help. So that's the beer. That's the whole process. It was a lot of work, but it wasn't as much work as it sounds, I don't think, because the brew day went pretty smoothly, between the first and second mash. And, the only hectic part was kegging the original Pilsner beer beforehand. But then, my keg was clean and ready to go, so all I did have to do was rack into it. So I shared one of these with some friends last week, and it wasn't fully carbonated. I'm crossing my fingers that it will be carbonated now, so I think we're ready, unless y'all have questions.
Let me run to the fridge and grab the dark one.
Okay, we'll be opening while Chris.
Right.
Oh, there's a teeny hiss.
Oh, I've been drinking. I'm not just opening.
Yeah, I got a little hiss.
Yeah, there's
As-
a little bit of carbonation.
As Steve would say, it's an alger hiss.
Uh,
And the cap says Dark World. If you read it as Dork World, it'd probably be,
I thought
What's
it was
it?
intended for me.
I've got
Wasn't
a
that a
any-
movie in the 90s? Dark World?
Dark World. I'm not sure. I get a little bit of head on the top of it. It's still. I'm hoping that the yeast will continue to wake up over time.
I wouldn't sweat it. It's not like it's flat. And when you get up to this ABV, I've even noticed this professionally. It gets that much harder to get a good carbonation at head, but the consumer tends to forgive you for that at this level of ABV. You're almost crossing into like brandy territory where some people aren't going to necessarily finish the whole bottle in a night.
Mm.
I've heard on some of the big beers I've made that people will drink part of if we package in a 16-ounce can even, they'll put the can back in the fridge, maybe put some foil or plastic over it, and then finish it the next night. And I've tried that. That sounds like a terrible sin for a beer drinker to do that, but um, there are beers that hit this ABV that are fine 2, 3 days later,
Ah,
left open.
Yeah, I've done that before. I usually have much less the second day, like a third of the bottle, but
Right.
I've definitely done that. Was there a specific reason for Northern Brewer? Did you have something in mind?
I don't remember. When Chris gets back, we can. I think it may have been just the alpha acid percentage. Because I figured, by the time I wound up boiling for an hour and a half. And I thought by the time, I got the sugar in there and got all the other ingredients in there, the hop character was going to be put into the background anyway. So
Or the brewer works in dark beers, I think. It can get a little menthol minty at times.
when I racked it into the secondary, I took a hydrometer reading, and the brown sugar was like way up front at that point. But then after it settled out after a couple of days in the secondary, it was more muted than that first tasting.
I don't know if it's because you mentioned it, but yeah, I get brown sugar on the nose. I definitely get I get Mexican vibes on the nose. It's a little bit of cocoa, a little bit of coffee, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of the brown sugar.
And our goal, I think, in blending was not to be like, oh, this is a coffee beer, or oh, this is a chocolate beer, or just not in your face with any of the flavors, but to have it kind of blend all together.
It is nicely balanced, and I liked the pepper note because it's not, it's not like fiery spicy or anything, but there's just like a little bit of a kick to it, which pepper heat and chocolate seem to go together really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost not a heat. It's almost there just to balance some of the sweetness and some of the chocolate, character. It's not. It doesn't stand out as a pepper beer.
Do you get any of the hickory smoke from the pepper?
Is this the same powder you gave Scott and I?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my cabinets smell like this all the time now because that little baggie's in there. So for you to ask that, I'm like, I think so. This kind of smells like my kitchen now.
I thought it smelled really familiar when I opened it up with it. I also get from the aroma a little bit. I used to use turbinado sugar a lot, and there's something about, maybe it's just like the raw sugar that I think I can pick out a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to say this is pistacho. And I've used it plenty in brewing as well. It's really just that kind of raw brown sugar character is what that brings to the table.
It was fun to play with. I was intimidated by those cones because I thought that they would be more like rigid and hard to break up. But once you hit them a couple of times with the mallet, once they start falling apart, it just falls to powder pretty quickly.
Were you afraid it wouldn't dissolve at all in the kettle? Is that why you broke it up?
Yeah, kind of. I didn't want, sometimes, you get sugar lumps, which was an affectionate name that my grandmother used to call me. But I've said sugar lump. Hey, sugar lump. But I was afraid. Yeah, I was afraid that it was going to be. I didn't want it to stick to the electrical element in the bottom. But as soon as I poured it in there, it's just like it just disappeared.
Yeah. I mean, I'm throwing them into 500 gallons of boiling wort, and I'm just dumping in a bunch of them at once. I'm sure the thermodynamics are differently there. They dissolve right away.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm sure it was fun and therapeutic to hit that thing with a hammer during your brew day.
I took video. So we'll start with you, Chris. Chris, what are your general impressions before we get picky with the scores? What do you think? Was it what you pictured as we were building the recipe?
Yeah, actually pretty close. This it's very nicely balanced. Doing it with the tinctures and tasting it, let you get it balanced out. And it hides its alcohol well. Like I wouldn't have guessed it was 13%. I would have guessed, like 9 or something. Because it tastes strong, but it doesn't taste 13% strong to me.
Scott?
Agreed. Yeah, the balance is really nice. It's kind of like with each couple sips, I start to go. I'll say I get the pepper, and then the next a little bit, I'll go. I got the coffee now, and maybe a little bit of the chocolate. But it's definitely very unique, and in a good way. I would pay $2 because you had to mash twice.
Yeah, sometimes when people say, "Oh, this is unique," that can go either way.
No, in the good way. Yeah.
Adam, your general impressions.
Yeah, there you hit the alcohol really well. I don't even know if I would guess 9. I mean, this is dangerous. You get some people in trouble with this beer. I like it as I'd almost call this like a Mexican barley wine, except it doesn't really have that fermentation character or body. It drinks way too easy. Usually barley wines are a little hotter and a little chewier as kind of a way to slow you down. This doesn't slow you down for better or worse. So good work here.
Oh, thank you. And kudos to Chris for helping me come up with the recipe as well.
I also like that this tastes like beer. It doesn't taste like a vector for chocolate or a vector for, so many beers that have some non-beer ingredient. You taste it and it's like whatever they've added to it is like overwhelming. But this tastes like beer with an undercurrent of this, the spices we added.
Oh.
You added.
Well, I think the chocolate takes center stage. The coffee is maybe there in the background. Maybe we would miss it if it wasn't there, to give it a little roasty character. But when I drink this, I think more kind of spicy dark chocolate, and not necessarily coffee. But I think it came together well. I'm happy with this. It's been sitting out for like 45 minutes, so it's almost room temperature. So it's really open, and the flavors are really nice. But it's not it finished at 10-12, so it's not like sickeningly sweet, like Adam, maybe you're thinking of barley wine usually would be. So it's very drinkable.
Oh, there's so many barley wines and imperial stouts these days that finish above where a lot of my beers start. I've had beers that finish above 1050. That's not super uncommon. I can't stand them. I don't know who these people are that are drinking those and are just fine. I mean, that's gut rot for me.
Pre-diabetics.
Aren't we all? Like, yeah. Isn't being pre-diabetic kind of like being dead? We're all pre. If you're not diabetic, you're. Anyway, maybe I'll cut that out. Okay, so let's talk about scoring, just for my own gratification. Very very high ABV. I think we can say check for that.
Check.
Yeah.
Yep, you did it.
Low bitterness.
Yep.
Check.
Black.
Yep.
Lager. Yep. And then world. It's from the world.
It is from the world. It's still from someone raised by librarians and teachers. That drives me nuts that we say it's from the world when all these styles are from the world. But yes.
It's definitely not brewed on Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, or
not that you know.
Yeah, it might have been brewed on Uranus. I don't know.
Brewed on Uranus.
That's that extra something.
Yeah.
No, world is the. I always just when you say from the world, I always think of those late night commercials from the '90s with the like World Mix CD, and it had like Enya, and it also has like a mariachi band, and it's like that's your definition of the world. It's just
The
master
Zamfir, master of the pan flute. Okay. Okay. So theme / originality. I've had 2 sips of this big beer. To start Adam, since it's your scoring system, theme slash originality from 1 to 5 up to 5 points.
I'm going to give you the full 5 because listening to the episode where you and Chris designed the recipe and then tasting the finished beer, I don't think you set out to make what I'm calling like a Mexican barley wine, but you hit it. And so you may have, which isn't a real style, so you may have invented something new here. You get all the points for this one.
Scott, and I'm not saying that you have to give all the points, but what do you say?
No, that's a 5. That's definitely a 5. You got the theme. It's definitely original.
And
5 points.
And Chris, should you recuse yourself because you helped with the recipe, or are you going to judge?
I thought we were leaving politics out of this.
You can.
It would be honorable if I let myself out of it, but it would be going against the flow of modern American politics.
So what do you say?
Do something immoral and unethical.
Theme / originality.
Just to be different, I'll go 4.
Yeah.
You're being humble.
Okay. Appearance from 1 to 3. Adam.
So mine's always color, clarity, and foam is how I do the 3 points for that on BJCP or whatever. So 2 out of 3 because I do want just a little more carbonation, a little bit of foam would be appreciated.
That's fair. Scott?
I'm going 2 as well. I feel like the clarity is really close, but sometimes you get a black beer that's like slightly murky, and I'm trying to look past that, but I think it's a 2.
Chris Colby, 1 to 3 on appearance.
I'll go with a 3 just because alcohol is a foam killer, and when it poured, it had nice foam, but then the foam stand died over, but about 13%. What do you expect?
And there's also oil in the coffee as well.
Yeah.
And maybe in the cacao dips. Not making excuses, but Okay.
Scott, we missed the opportunity with a dark brown beer to say it was a solid number 2.
Oh.
Well, you did. You got it. So, plus you got that smoked hickory jalapeno or habanero in there. So that might affect things a little bit.
You're still getting 2 points.
Completely disregarding Adam's joke.
If it was made with maize. Okay. Aroma. Let's go around backwards. Chris Colby, aroma 1 to 5.
I like the aroma. I'll go 4.5 just to needlessly start inserting decimals into it.
God, gotta get my calculator out. Scott, aroma 1 to 5.
Man, I want to give a 4.5 now, but I think it's a 4. It smells really good.
It's really good, yeah.
Adam.
Yeah, a 4. The only thing keeping it from a 5 is I don't know. It seems almost not sure which of the flavor or aromas it wants to go with, but also I'm kind of liking it. So I'm not going to say 4.5, but I'm going to say 4.
That's fair. Okay, this is a big one. Flavor from up to 10. Scott, I'll go with you first.
Oh no, I was just having some water. I think I got to say 8. 8 or 9. I'm going to go 8. You need room to go up.
Okay, all right. Adam?
Man, that's 10-point scale. Who wrote this thing?
You did.
I'm gonna go debating here. I want to give you a 7, but then also like considering how this thing is 13% alcohol and it doesn't taste like it, you'll get a bonus point for that. Let's do 8.
All right. Chris Colby, flavor
9 1/3.
Oh, jeez. 9.33.
So a repeating decimal.
Yeah, it's a little bar over
Put the
the
bar
thing.
above the second 3.
I'll give it pi. Okay.
Let's not be
9 point
irrational,
pie.
James.
Yeah.
3.14, but then okay.
159. Yeah.
Okay.
6.
From
926.
finish, From 1 to 2, Chris Colby.
Oh, 2. I mean, this one got all the way down to 12. You can't. And I mean, I like dry beers, so I mean, this is as dry as you could get it. At that, I'd go.
Okay.
Although I should probably go like 1.87 or something, but I'll just go 2.
Thank you. Y'all are about to discover why I have help figuring tips at the end of the evening when I go to a brew pub. Okay, Scott, finish 1 to 2.
I'm going with the 2 also. It finishes great. It's not that syrupy sweet. It finishes where it should, I think.
Adam.
1.9 repeating, which mathematically can be proven to be a number 2, a soft number 2 here.
A soft number 2. That's to be seen. Okay. All right, y'all talk amongst yourselves while I do my math here. I'll probably cut this part out.
And now back to the show.
Now back to the show.
And James is over there not drinking through all this. It's been a 4-year binge.
I need to catch up. Okay, so I'm not. Well, should I do the average? I don't know. Okay, Adam, that score out of 25, you gave a 21. So did Scott. Chris Colby gave a 22.83. So
repeating.
I'm happy with that.
Repeating.
I'm happy with that. I think
Yeah.
This is one of my most ambitious beers, and I think it came out pretty dang good. If I can pat myself on the back, and I shall. So,
and you brewed 5 gallons of this?
Well, it came out 3.5 gallons into the bottling bucket. So,
okay. This will be real good come middle of winter when it's painfully cold outside.
The yield was 35 12-ounce bottles. So, if y'all are nice to me, I'll send you. Well, I sent each of you 2. So,
yeah,
if you haven't already consumed the other one, you can age.
Double fisting it over here.
Okay, we got more business to attend to. Scott, you're volunteering to go up for the next round.
Yes. After that homebrew club episode, which I loved.
Thanks again to the Inland Empire for stepping up, and they were delicious beers.
They were all delicious.
They were all very good. Even the one where I think it was John. Was it John? Joe? John said don't judge it because it's awful. It was not awful. So
yeah, the winner was honestly up there one of the best beers I've had in a while. So I mean those folks should be proud of what they did.
Yes.
And in defense of Adam does know that people have feelings.
Prove it.
Whether he acts on that knowledge or not, he does know.
Sometimes. If they send me beer, I acknowledge it. How about that?
Okay. All right. So the first category. Gosh, I got so much. I need a secretary. I got so much stuff. It's like a lot of paperwork here. Okay. So maybe I should have described what the mash your luck process at the beginning of the episode. But here, if you've made it this far, this is how it works. We've got categories ABV, bitterness, color, type, and origin. And we roll the random number generator to determine what the characteristics of each of those categories are. The first one is ABV. We have 1 to 5. We have very low, low, medium, high, and very high. Scott, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, here we go. We have a 3. We have a 3, which is medium.
Medium ABV.
Medium ABV, right straight down the middle. Medium ABV. Do you have any wishes for the? I wouldn't cheat for you, but do you have any wishes or goals, or are you hoping for something?
I'm just hoping that the surprises pay off.
Aha!
And these guys don't even know the foreshadowing that they've given with some of their comments.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
okay. Okay. Bitterness. We have low to mid, balanced, high, and very high. So we're rolling through 5 numbers. Here we go. Oh, another 3. So balanced bitterness. So
Keep them coming.
balanced bitterness. I'm writing down. Okay. Okay, now here comes the first edition that Scott has requested. Under color, we have pale, gold, amber, brown, black, and red.
Red.
I
Okay.
thought he was going to say glitter.
Well, he could put glitter in there if he wants to. So red, I think that's an excellent addition to the list. Okay, here we go. Number 5, another black beer.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Of course, there is you can roll a joker at the end if you like. Okay, so I need to change the parameters here. We got type. We have lager, ale, and sour. No new surprises there. So here we go. Oh, it's sour.
Oh, boy.
Is this the second sour you've drawn in a row? Didn't you draw?
I don't think I
Didn't
think I
you
got
do another
before.
sour? Maybe
Well,
not.
not because of the roll. He just did the Lichtenheimer. I'm mispronouncing.
Oh, that's right. Okay, but
Lichtenheimer.
that was
Yeah.
That was my
Whatever.
self-assignment.
yeah, that was on purpose. Okay, so here we
We
go.
could, not that, I mean, we've already done it, but next time around we could add like yeast influence, like a Hefeweizen or Belgian to the, I mean, that would be a subcategory of ale, but
Well, now Belgium does come in because we have origin, and
Right.
we started out in the very beginning of this concept. We had U.S., Germany, and the U.K. Now we have U.S., Germany, U.K., Belgium, Australasia, Scandinavia, world, and fantasy / sci-fi.
Yeah.
What? Woo! Hey, explain that. How are we gonna do a moon beer, Scott?
That's my problem.
yeah.
Well, then I hope you get it.
Well, you have a 1 in 8 chance of getting it. I hope you do. I hope you get it. I'll be honest though. I have the camera on this time. You can see. Australasia.
That place
Okay.
exists.
That's okay. So now we have medium ABV, balanced bitterness, black, sour, with Australasian influences. You have your joker.
I got to go for origin.
Oh, okay. All right. He's trying for the sci-fi. So, I mean, you could roll Australasia again. Okay, here we go. Oh, close. Close. It's world.
Oh,
World.
Another world. Could be an alien world, you know.
So, what were you, Scott? What were you thinking if you're aiming for fantasy?
well,
Sci-fi?
you got Romulan ales. You got the one James is always talking about. What's that? Trobnia or something?
Tranya. I hope
Tranya
you relish it
Star
as
Trek.
much as I.
You've got,
Pan-galactic
like,
gargle blasters.
Oh, Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster, yes. which is about what this beer is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the Green Dragon and Lord of the Rings, something.
Well,
I don't know, it was a challenge.
Or what's the? It's not. Is it Graph? Is that the Stephen King one?
Yeah, the Dark Tower one. The Stephen King
I
one,
thought about that too. What's that? Cider beer?
It's beer and cider, 50-50.
Yeah.
Plus, you're in Florida. You can dip over to Star Wars World at Disney, and they've got all their intergalactic beverages. They didn't have any beers, but they had plenty of out of this world cocktails.
Of course, Harry Potter is also fantasy. If you try to brew a lager and it screws up, you could call it butterbeer. And
I've known breweries to do that, actually.
Yeah,
it's not diacetyl.
Yeah. I tell this story all the time, but when Bob Stemsky and I went to the Great Taste of the Midwest many years ago, there was a brewery selling butter popcorn Pilsner.
Oh.
It's like how hazy lager is a thing now, I've heard recently.
Well, you just had one. So
yours actually, I've been letting it sit. It actually cleared up. It was just a chill haze.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Oh, so just drink it warm. And since it still doesn't taste like butterbeer. Butterbeer.
No diacetyl, no flaws.
Well, you think you can do that, Scott? Medium ABV.
I think I have to. I mean, I'm feeling a little under pressure with these criteria.
I don't know if you heard it, but I played it.
I did.
I also have.
You think glitter would show up in a black beer?
Yeah, and then use Galaxy hops, and you got a theme going.
Medium ABV,
See?
balanced bitterness, black, sour from the world.
You could do like a slightly sour porter. Like sour doesn't need to be like teeth crunchingly sour, does it? I mean, it could just have like a little bit of a zing to it.
Yeah, tart counts
or
as
one
sour.
of the. Yeah.
I had yesterday there's this cool bottle shop not too far away. They had Guinness blended with Lambic. And so apparently Guinness did this really small bottle run a number of years ago, and they blended 3 different Guinness products with Timmerman Lambic. So yeah, black, sour can work. And we at Twin Spin, we have our special Black Friday release is going to be sour stout. So I have faith in you, Scott. You can make something delicious with those parameters.
Yeah, thanks. I think I had something from Crooked Stave. I think it was like a dark farmhouse beer. And surprisingly good.
I think allegedly Guinness has a sour beer as a component blended in, right? And that's what I've heard for years.
Are you keeping this in the recording? Because there was an interview recently where like the brewer admitted that it's really phosphoric acid as a deterrent to microbial infection is added. A former brewer, I should say. So we don't know if that's exactly 100% truth, but that was his claim, was that they're just that afraid of infection that they lower the acidity through acid additions. And that's where you get that characteristic.
There you go. Another beer myth, potentially, allegedly busted for legal reasons.
Yeah.
Rumor has it. Oh, well, this has been fun. I still have half of my big old beer left, so let's turn off the recording so that we can talk unfettered and watch just how far off the rails Chris Colby goes. And then
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been a blast. I appreciate y'all getting together. Every time we get together, I'm very grateful, and I always have a lot of fun. And I hope that everybody listening does as well. Chris Colby down in Texas, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Adam Ross up in Bettendorf, Iowa, which is actually east of St. Paul, Minnesota, as I figured out, I think, during the probe thingy. Isn't it?
I never reference where I am based on St. Paul, but yeah, you're right.
Because I went west to east in introducing you guys, and I introduced you in the wrong order. And Scott Housel, I know you're the eastest of us because you're way down in Florida. So good luck on brewing your Mash Your Luck beer.
Well, thanks. I'm excited.
Me too. Many thanks to Chris, Adam, and Scott. Really looking forward to tasting what Scott comes up with. He never fails to impress with his homebrewing skills. The wheel has been leaning toward the dark side, it seems like to me. I need to look at the stats, but maybe that's some science fiction inspiration that Scott can use, leaning toward the dark side. Something to do with Darth malted barley? I don't know. I got to workshop that. If you send in your brewing disaster stories before long. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form at basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. That's all until next time. Till then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dotson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.